Today morning I will try to sing an English song which is on Mother Mary and her baby boy Jesus Christ. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? The child that you are delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will calm a storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked on where angels trod? And when you kiss your little baby, you have kissed the face of the Lord. Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again, the lame will leap, the dumb will speak, the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creations? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? This sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know?
I'm reading from the book Religion in Practice by Swami Kripamayananda, introduction by Christopher Isherwood. The chapter is The Goal of Life. Through the process of evolution, God, Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss absolute, God who dwells everywhere, becomes unfolded. Shankara, by his subtle logic, proves that existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute are not attributes of God, but identical with God, nor are they different from one another. God is existence itself, and that which is existence is also consciousness and bliss itself as well. We shall not enter into that subtlety of his reasoning, but let us simply state the fact that God, who is existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute, is everywhere. The light shines in darkness, but the darkness comprehended it not. Though he shines everywhere, he is not comprehended by all because of darkness. Take the mineral kingdom for instance. There is God there is life, and there is consciousness. But this life and consciousness remain covered by the darkness of so-called matter. In the vegetable kingdom, we find through darkness of matter, though the darkness of matter predominates, that there is a certain release of life and consciousness. Within the past 40 years, a Hindu scientist, J.C. Bose, conclusively demonstrated that the plants can breathe, has life and consciousness, and thus act and react. In the lower animal kingdom, we find consciousness predominates, but there is no evolved self-consciousness. In man, self-consciousness is unfolded, but man again is a slave to matter. In the illumined sphere, in a Christ or a Buddha or a Ramakrishna, we see that infinite consciousness infinitely expressed. They have become one with God. For a God-man transcends the sense of ego, the ego which limits the infinite consciousness or God in man. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when the ego dies, all troubles cease. To transcend this ego and unfold the infinite consciousness is what Christ would call the birth in spirit, and Buddha would call the awakening. The condition for the birth in spirit, for the inner awakening, is in the words of the Bible. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. In other words, we must devote ourselves completely and wholeheartedly to loving contemplation of God. Our consciousness becomes matter-bound or released to infinity according to the object of consciousness, the object of our love. If we devote our mind to worldly objects, our mind remains clouded by the darkness of matter. And if we devote ourselves to the inner light, to God, the cover of darkness is removed and the light shines forth. The natural tendency of the mind, however, is to run outward towards the objects of senses. The senses are drawn naturally to objects, and the mind is attached to the senses because of ignorance of the inner light. Why does the mind become attached to the senses and the objects of the senses? It is because through ignorance it accepts the shadow of life, the appearance of the world as real. There is infinite God, the inner light, within each one of us. There is also the covering of darkness. The mind receives the reflection of the inner light, gets the fragrance, as it were, of God, existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute, does not know from where this fragrance is coming, seeks to find fulfillment in the objective world by running after the shadows of life. Thus, the mind becomes externalized. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the causes of our bondage to life are said to be first avidya, the universal ignorance, which covers the face of reality. From this ignorance or forgetfulness of the presence of the divine reality within, there arises next the sense of ego. Then there comes in man attachment to pleasing things of the world and aversion to unpleasant things. And lastly, thirst for life. Swami Vivekananda used to say, if a room is dark, you cannot remove the darkness by crying aloud, "It is dark, it is dark." But bring the light and the darkness will vanish. Our mind is darkened by ignorance. To remove the ignorance, we must look into the inner light that shines in spite of the covering of darkness. In short, contemplation of God is the direct means to reach the inner light of God. Here is it.
Now a short period of meditation. Good morning, friends. So we are close to Christmas time, and birth of Jesus literally reminds us of the great life, the world mover of thousands of years, more than 2,000 years, and whose influence is not at all less, rather increasing more and more. And the song that was being sung, He gave sight to the blind and ears to the deaf and voice to dumb. That is physically He did, but He's still doing. And that doesn't only mean to our physical blindness or physical deafness. It's spiritual deafness, spiritual blindness. That is a more important role of Jesus, that He makes our eyes open towards the reality that we pray take us from darkness to light, from unreal to real, that darkness to light, the ability to see the truth, that blessing of Jesus, that work of Jesus never ends. It goes on. And that's why we remember this great life. Remembering such a great life itself has a very positive impact in our life. And we feel like we're seeing something new. And His miracles, walking on the water, or making wine out of water, or making loaves from a piece of loaf, from 2 pieces of fish, He made bushels of fish. So all these are the miracles that is said in the Bible. But those are just to show that there are much more miracles that God can do in the form of Jesus. That is transforming humanity from worldly existence to spiritual awareness. That is the greatest miracle even than bringing a dead to life. We are dead to spirituality, we are dead to our own real nature. So we want to be alive to the truth of our own selves, and Jesus cannot bring. Lazarus, come forth is for every one of us. Come forth and be united to your true nature, to your divinity, to your strength. That is real Jesus bringing us to life like he did to Lazarus physically. Blessedness and perfection is according to Christ, is the topic that we chose for today to remember Jesus and his teachings. So, perfection is the cherished wish of our soul. We want to be perfect. That's why we want to learn. That's why we want to have knowledge. By knowledge, we want to be perfect in that thing, and we want to act perfectly. Goal of our learning, our education is attaining perfection. Swami Vivekananda defined education as the manifestation of perfection that is already in man. So already in man is very important. We don't learn anything from outside. We have all the knowledge inside. What education does is removes our ignorance, our own knowledge that we have, and then the light shines forth, as was beautifully being read today, this morning, that all blessedness, joy, knowledge is in us, and we see outside, which is by mistake we think it is outside, and we don't see within ourselves. So that is the way. We are perfect. We have to manifest this perfection in our life. That's what Swami Vivekananda says when he says it is already within us. Whatever helps us in doing this is education. And in the Vedas, there is a saying about two types of education. In Mundaka Upanishad, there is a story that one Shaunaka, who had been very well accomplished and wealthy aspirant, he was a wealthy person, isn't wealthy money-wise or wealthy spiritual quest-wise, it is not mentioned, you can take it any way you like. Mahashala, very wealthy, that is the term. His name was Angira. His name was Shaunaka. Shaunaka approaches the sage Angira and he asked one question. Oh, revered sir, can you teach me one thing by knowing which I will be able to know everything? Kasminnu bhagavo vidyate sarvam idam vidyatam bhavati iti. By knowing one thing, I will be able to know everything. Can you teach me that thing? That was a difficult question. How can be one thing you know and you know everything? And in the Vedas you find it written, it is mentioned that as a lump of clay, by knowing that you know the whole world. As a rice grain, one rice grain cooked or not cooked, knowing you know the whole rice pot, whether you know it is cooked or not. Like that, if we are able to know our own reality, we will be able to know everything. What we seek is our own true self, and that search will be finished that day. And Muni Angira, the sage Angira says, yes, there are two types of knowledge, two types of learning. One is called Aparavidya, lower knowledge, which consists of all our worldly knowledge. And he describes the knowledge, Chanda, Nirukta, Vyakarana, Sahitya, everything that was common in the literature. Now we can add all our sciences that we have progressed, sciences, engineering, medicine, law, whatever is there, political science, sociology, international relationship, all comes under lower knowledge, Aparavidya. So this is one knowledge. But that knowledge will not give you total satisfaction. You will not be perfect with that knowledge. You will have that knowledge, but you will not attain immortality. You will not attain perfection with that knowledge. Yes, you will feel people will respect you, you are very learned, you know 7 languages, you know so much of degrees you have got so many awards, you have become first in this university, you have been awarded best presenter in that conference. Like that people will respect you. But inside it will be not fulfilled. Perfection will not be there. Fulfillment will not be there. This Saunaka, this Angira says to Saunaka, and he said there is another knowledge, Paravidya, higher knowledge, supreme knowledge. Para means, para is the feminine for because it is Vidya, that will become Para. When it is neutral gender, it becomes Param. So Param and Para are the same thing, supreme. Paravidya, supreme knowledge, highest knowledge, what is that? Yat Aksharam Adhigamyate, which takes you to Akshara, immortality. That is Paravidya. That is perfection. That is education that makes us perfect in that way, that fulfills our cherished wish to become perfect. It is same with attaining immortality, having supreme knowledge, attaining God, God realization, and perfection is the same thing. Jesus said, be perfect. How much to be perfect? As your Father in heaven is perfect. We know the concept of God. He is all fulfilled, free from desires, free from sorrow, free from death, free from disease. God is perfect in every way. Free from jealousy, hatred, suffering. Nothing is there. It's perfect, glowing, and brilliant. That is God. And Jesus said, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Be like God. How did he say, how can we be like God? It's a very blasphemous statement. But it's what Advaita is. You have that capacity. How can we become something like something that is other thing? You cannot become unless we are that. That is, you can reach that because you are that. It is implied that be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And at another place he said, find the kingdom of heaven is within you. God is already within you. We don't have to bring it from somewhere. You don't have to achieve. When Vedanta says, Tatra Aksharam Adhigamyate, which takes you to Akshara, imperishable state. That isn't something we are here and we go there. That is the way to express. But it means you will be able to realize, to understand, to feel that I am that Akshara, I am that perfect. Kingdom of God is within us means I am that perfect being. And in Vedanta it has been said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, and concept of Brahman and concept of Father in heaven is same. It is all that real state when we have attained that perfection. We have reached the goal. That is the goal. Jesus Christ and our order, Ramakrishna Mission, have very intimate relationship. Those who have read the life of Sri Ramakrishna know how Sri Ramakrishna had the vision of Jesus. He had gone to one of his devotees' place, Shamu Malik's house, and he saw there in 1874 a photograph of Madonna with the child. And he was just looking at it, and suddenly saw it become living. The mother and the baby both became living, and they become effulgent. And the light from them entered his body. And it was such a blessed state, and he prayed that, Lord, how do Christians pray? I want to see that. And he was shown a church where people are there, going into the church. They are lighting the candles, they are sitting on the chair, they are kneeling before the Christ, and that vision was so profound to Sri Ramakrishna. For 3 days, he was continuously in the thought of Jesus and the way Christians pray to Jesus. Totally in that thought for 3 days and nights. Whenever Sri Ramakrishna was doing some sadhana, it became so absorbing that everything other fell apart. Only that he was in the mood of Jesus Christ, the way to pray to Jesus and the devotee of Jesus, it was all there. On the 4th day, he was going in the garden near Panchavati. Suddenly he saw a person coming. And he thought, who is this person? I never saw him in Dakshineshwar. Who is this? And as he approached near, then he saw, then suddenly it came, it is Jesus Christ. And he said, He said, this is Jesus who poured out his heart's blood for the redemption of mankind. Sri Ramakrishna could recognize after it came near to him. This is none other than Christ, the embodiment of love. That was Sri Ramakrishna's idea of Jesus. What Sri Swami Vivekananda says about Sri Ramakrishna, that Sri Ramakrishna is L-O-V-E. And what is Jesus? It is embodiment of love, L-O-V-E. Because there is no difference between Sri Ramakrishna and Jesus Christ. We believe that it is Jesus Christ who is born as Sri Ramakrishna. Jesus Christ in Palestine, in Bethlehem, Sri Ramakrishna come out to put in India. It is the same being, same person in different time to teach in a different language to different people in a different way. So that it becomes understandable, acceptable to us. Little different. Truth is same. But it has to be taught so that we understand. And the same being came as Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Abhedananda, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, describes in the meditation of Jesus, in Sanskrit he says, Parama Prema Murtim Deenanatham Bhajama. I worship Jesus, who is Parama Prema Murti, who is the embodiment of supreme love. He is nothing but love. All his life is centered in love. Let me read that. Let me read from Swami Vivekananda. In the Christ, the messenger Swami Vivekananda says, Jesus had no other occupation in life, no other thought except that one, that he was a spirit. He was a disembodied, unfettered, unbound spirit. And not only so, but he, with his marvelous vision, had found that every man and woman, whether Jew or Gentile, whether rich or poor, whether saint or sinner, was the embodiment of the same undying spirit as himself. Therefore, the one work his whole life showed was to call upon them to realize their own spiritual nature. Give up, he says, these superstitious dreams that you are low and that you are poor. Think not that you are trampled upon and tyrannized over as if you were slaves. For within you is something that can never be tyrannized over, never be trampled upon, never be troubled, never be killed. You are all sons of God, immortal spirit. Know, he declared, that kingdom of heaven is within you. I and my Father are one. Dare you stand up and say, not only that I am the Son of God, but I shall also find in my heart of heart that I and my Father are one. Swami Vivekananda asked us, as Jesus said, for us to also say and realize and practice to be able to finally say, I and my Father are one. That was what Jesus Nazareth said. He never talked of this world and of this life. He had nothing to do with it, except that he wants to get hold of the world as it is, give it a push, and drive it forward and onward until the whole world has reached to the effulgent light of God, until everyone has realized its spiritual nature, until death is vanished and misery vanished. That's what Sri Ramakrishna talks about Jesus Christ. How much Swami Vivekananda had love about Jesus and his brother disciples. Sri Ramakrishna said that two of his monastic disciples he saw in the vision were with Jesus in their previous life, Swami Saradananda and Swami Ramakrishnananda. Swami Saradananda, what Sri Ramakrishna said was in his vision, and nothing was untrue in his visions. Swami Saradananda goes to Vatican and sees all along, and goes to Sistine Chapel, the purest place where the popes are elected, and where the Michelangelo's the famous painting, God touching the creation, is there. Then he falls into Samadhi in Sistine Chapel, Swami Saradananda. This all says what Sri Ramakrishna saw was not untrue. It is all right. So that's how we have the relationship. Christ is worshipped worshipped in all centers of Ramakrishna Mission. In the West, we worship every day. In the East, all centers, Christmas Eve we celebrate, and we worship Jesus as we worship Sri Ramakrishna, without any distinction or difference. We respect both as same. Our love and respect for Christ and Sri Ramakrishna is same. Christ declared that God can be seen, that divine perfection can be achieved. The method is to attain this is renunciation of worldliness and achieve purification of heart through the love of God. This was what Swami Vivekananda tried to impress upon his friends, the young disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who were later to renounce the world and were to become monks in Artpur, in a village in Bengal. That was on 24 December 1886. Even without knowing that it is a Christmas Eve, Swami Vivekananda gave them the life of Jesus, the glorious, who lived to serve the world, who breathed for God, who had nothing else to do with the world, just to give himself totally for the sake of the service of the world, service of the mankind. And he said that let us pray today to totally surrender our life for the service of mankind and for the sake of God. That's what the sannyasa means, for nothing else. And they all blessed. Later on they took formal sannyasa, and the Ramakrishna Mission was established in 1897 after everything was done. But sannyasa they took in 1886. They all took sannyasa and left home and heart and became sannyasi. What was the spirit that inspired them to sacrifice their worldly life? It was Jesus, as told by Swami Vivekananda. The life and teachings of Jesus was so inspiring to give them life. Of course, they were all prepared by the touch of Sri Ramakrishna. They have been purified in their heart. So everything was done. But that's how we have an intimate connection with Jesus Christ. Ramakrishna Mission, people ask, why being a Hindu you worship Jesus and Buddha? Why is that? That's why we worship Jesus. We don't find any difference between Jesus and Ramakrishna and Buddha and any other form of God, and Shiva and Krishna. We all see with the same eye, because all are the lights for illumine the human soul. All are equally important. So if you like one light can illuminate, it's fine, but we revere all lights of spirituality who have the power to illumine human soul. Jesus said about the blessedness, who are blessed. Once Sri Ramakrishna was speaking with a sick person near in Dakshineswar. There is a magazine where the ammunition is to be produced just beside the wall of Dakshineswar. And there were some sick people working there, and Sri Ramakrishna used to sometimes talk with Sri Ramakrishna. So one of the persons who met Sri Ramakrishna and was talking, I said, you see how God is kind and gracious to us, and we are so blessed by God. Sri Ramakrishna said, how God is kind? He said, God gives us life, God provides us food, God gives us air to breathe, and we live by God's grace. So how God is gracious to us? Sri Ramakrishna said, that is not the grace of God. If God doesn't nourish us, He doesn't sustain us, who will do? We are God's children. If parents do not look after after their children, will they never come and look after? Because we are God's children, God has to look after that. That is God's duty. God is bound to do that because we are God's children. It is God's responsibility to look after us, to look after well-being. Then the sick asked, then there is no grace of God, nothing called grace of God. Sri Ramakrishna, why not? There is definitely a grace of God. When God gives us spiritual illumination, when by His grace we become purified in our heart, when our love for God grows because of God, so that will be the grace of God. So grace will be something higher, more spiritually illuminating, enriching us with spiritual power, spiritual light, spiritual wisdom. That will be really grace of God. So we want more from God. That's why we try to come here in the temples and say to God, okay, we live, we survive, we have food, we have job, but that is not enough. We want to be perfect. We want, make us blessed, have grace upon us that we can have devotion to you, develop in our heart. So what we need to do for that? Guide us, Lord. We are ready to do that. We are not satisfied with what we have and we have achieved. We want more. We want inner light. We want growth. We want inner satisfaction. Jesus said, blessed are the poor in spirit. That was his saying. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Everyone has kingdom of heaven. Why theirs? Because they will be able to realize the kingdom of heaven is within them. We do not realize. When we do not realize, it is as if not having. Unless you are aware of God's presence within you, really God has left you for all practicality. When you realize God is within you, then will God guide you. So, Jesus said, poor in spirit, that is very important. Then there is the kingdom of heaven. Poor in spirit is humility, ready to receive. When did Jesus say this? He had so many people started coming to Jesus. He became famous. And people from, in the Bible you will find that people from Syria and Judea and all places all around, people started coming to Jesus to listen to him, listening to his miracle, and more than that, of his talks, of something that was so unique, of the interpretation of what religion is, what spirituality is. Very practical spirituality he was talking about how to transform our lives to make it really fulfilled, make it perfect. And people came. But all were not, didn't want that spiritual richness. So he taught them that ordinary teaching of daily prayer. So to some of them, few of them, he said, let us go to the mountain. And he took them to the Mount of Beatitude, that is called today, there's a church there. And there they took, and they sat, a few of them, and they started talking the inner core of spirituality. As Swami Vivekananda spoke in Thousand Island Park, inspired talks. He was inspired, Swamiji, to give the very inner core, inner depth of spirituality. Jesus here started pouring out the cream of his teachings, which is in the Bible is called Sermon on the Mount. And in that, the first of the blessedness sermon is, blessed are the poor in spirit, for there is the kingdom of God. What is the poor in spirit? Humble, ready to receive. Are you ready to receive what I am going to speak to you? Otherwise, I will say things, but it will all go like the water poured in sand. Nothing will be utilized. So, humble in poor in spirit is, you must be able to receive. For to receive something, as Sri Krishna said in the Gita, that viddhi, know that truth. Pranipatena pariprastena sevaya. First, we prostrate. Think that he from whom I am listening is respectable, he has to give and I can receive. Have that feeling and faith in your teacher. And then ask questions if you have doubt. And then serve him. Three things he said. But Jesus also said, you have to be poor in spirit, then you will be able to understand. Blessed are they that mourn. That mourn. Mourning happens when we lose something, when we suffer. And he says, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. What type of mourning is this? It is not our worldly mourning. Something is lost, your money is lost in the stock market, and you mourn, oh, my money is gone, $50,000, I become poorer today. Not this mourning. This mourning is spiritual mourning. When people suffer from not being able to reach the goal even after attempting that. And when such suffering comes, that dark night of spirituality that comes, then there will be light coming. And that eagerness that Sri Ramakrishna said, that thing, that yearning, that when the yearning comes and you feel that you are not able to reach that, you are close there, then you will be, you achieve that light. Mourn, suffer, not for worldliness, but for spiritual loss. That why I have not yet reached there. It is expressed in the Hindu term as viraha. Viraha is, the Lord is there, It seems I can reach, but I am not able to reach. That pang of separation yet from the goal, from the Lord that you are to reach, there is intense feeling of pain, of suffering, of mourning. When that has come, you may not have reached there, but it is like the dawn. Sunrise is not far, as Sri Ramakrishna says. Morning, the eastern horizon has become pink, and now the glow will come. Just have some time that you need to have that virara. Sri Ramakrishna also said that how much we think of the world and feel worldly mourning. People shed jug full of tears for wealth, but not a drop for God. So that is not mourning. So we need to have that yearning to see God, to become perfect. The wish has to come from inside. In the imitation of Christ, it has been said, when shall I be made one with thee and be molten into thy love? To be one with God, molten yourself, in Sri Ramakrishna's language, be dilute in God. Be diluted there. And you want to be one with God. That imitation of Christ, there's Thomas A. Kempis, that is wonderful saint and lover of God. And he says in that very saying, that we may so abide always together in one. The goal is to be one with God. That's what Vedanta says. What Jesus ultimately points out towards that, he doesn't say clearly, but it's all about being one with God. Blessed are meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Meek means humble. But how will they inherit the earth? Meek is those who can self-surrender to God, who are free from the sense of me and mine. Those people are called meek, very humble. They don't have I sense, they don't mind anything, but they will inherit the earth, they will own the earth. In Yoga Sutras also it is said, if you are free from the sense of stealing, then you will own the riches of the world. What does it mean? Stealing is, you don't have greed for it, you don't steal. But why he said about stealing? When he is teaching this high philosophy of control of mind and Raja Yoga to people, no one is there, the thieves. Thieves do not listen to these things. Why is he saying about the stealing? Stealing here to the subtlest state is not having any greed for anything. You don't want anything. When that all is gone, your all desire for possession is gone, then everything becomes yours. You own everything because you don't need anything to possess. Then suddenly you find the whole world is yours. When you disown to small things, the whole world becomes yours. That's why it said, they will inherit the earth. Blessed are meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Hunger and thirst is again yearning. So one who has real passion to see God, to be passion to be perfect, passion to progress, have the inner growth, then they shall be filled. This is the promise that light will come. We will be traveling from darkness to light. Blessed are merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Why this merciful is so much important, and what is the mercy will obtain? Merciful is forgiving. This mind is one. And when our mind has something else other than its purity, its open, its only mind, how can we fully give it to the Lord, to feel at the feet of God? When it has something anger, some jealousy, some hatred, you have not forgiven other person. So it is not in full form, half is taken away by other person. So when you go to offer, it's only half you are offering. Unless the God is offered full of our mind, that's why they said, love your God, your Lord with your whole heart and mind and soul and strength. Everything has to go, all your focus has to go towards God, then only God God will reveal. So when we can forgive others, be merciful towards those who we feel have done something wrong to us, then only God will have mercy on us. We will attain mercy. Nothing keeping back. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now what is this purity by which we will see God? That purity is full love of God. Whole mind given to God. How can we attain purity? By loving God. That's why they say repeat name of God, do prayer, do japam. That will attain you purity. So all this, go to the temple, pray to God, that all are functions by which we will attain purity. So there are people who are pure, they live ethical life, they steady practice of moral values. Those are essential for spiritual life, but not enough. Those are important. They will help us in making our heart pure. But thinking of God all the time, in and through every thought, is real purity of heart. That much is needed. That's why in the Gita also it is said, bhakti has to be ananya. The love for God should be one-pointed. Everything I do, that should be love for God. And another word said, avyavicharini, unadulterated love. Adulterated, you have love for God and you have also love for something else. That is adulterated. That means your love is not pure love. It is mixed with some other loves. So God wants very pure love. Avyavicharini bhakti, ananya bhakti, unadulterated love, one-pointed love, and that will be way that we will be able to see God. Swami Vivekananda liked this sentence very much. He said, if all the scriptures are gone, lost, but this remains, there will be humanity, will not be dearth of light. They will get light, they will go spiritually. This very line, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Later on, Mahatma Gandhi also echoed the same thing about Ishavasya Saivam. He said that if that remains, people will have spiritual food. Swami Brahmananda used to say, hold on to the pillar of God. We are holding in the world, moving this, meeting that person, thinking this job, but as the children play sometimes, hold around, and they fall down, they hurt. But if you hold a pillar and you hold around, then you don't fall, you can hold on. That we have to do in life. Hold, play in the world, but holding on to the pillar, then you don't fall. And what is that pillar? That pillar is God. Always doing everything and be aware that you are doing, dealing, acting, thinking, but God has to be the mainstay of our life. Then we will not fall. Then we will be always supported. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. What are the peacemakers? Who can make peace? If we ourselves are not at peace, how can we make peace outside? When we are full of peace and full of thought of God, then peace will automatically generate. You don't have to try to make peace. You go there, you will walk. From your mouth will come such words, your presence will create such ambience that peace will automatically generate among the people who need peace. Swami Swahanand, this thing I often repeat, that someone, Swamiji asked one senior monk, Swamiji, people come, believe, and they want to very trouble, then how to make them peaceful at the time of they lost something, they are at bereavement, how to make them peaceful. So the senior monk said, you don't have to say anything. Your very presence, if you have your peace inside, will make them peaceful. And that's how he said that they can make peace. Peace is by very much presence that the peace comes. Those people filled with peace will generate peace all around. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by whom we call a devotee, and highly evolved devotee. He says to understand the evolution of devotees whom he meets, real lover of God, will be one in whose presence you start repeating name of God automatically. Just he comes and you think of God. How much is the power of that love of God, that very aura, very ambience of that person influences us. And there is influence. Human beings are influenced by bad thing and good thing alike. So, if you have the company of someone, you will find something bad. And you are in the ambience of good thing. And if the person is true lover of God and strong lover of God, then that influence will be so much that you automatically, your mind flow with God and you will start repeating the name of God. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. This purity, peace is all infectious, contagious. It affects others. So we need to develop peace within ourselves if we want to be a peacemaker. Sri Ramakrishna also said, and Jesus said, "Blessed art persecuted, reviled for my sake." You suffer for God's sake? Don't worry. There will be high rewards for you. Don't feel shy. Sri Ramakrishna said very nicely, "Lajja, Krina, Bhoy, Teen Thakte Noy." You want to grow spiritually? Then avoid three things. Lajja is shyness. You are shy. Oh, what will people say if I go to church always? Sometimes devotees say, "Swamiji, I came this time so many days. What will people say? I should come once a week. I have been this week, I came 4 times to Vedanta Society." Oh my God. As if shy of what people will say they are coming Vedanta Society too much. That is feeling shy. And Krina, you have hatred towards one. So then also you will not achieve God because your heart is not pure. Hatred, jealousy, greed, anger, all these are signs of impurity. With this impurity, our heart will not reach God. God wants very pure heart. And fear of being persecuted. People gave their life. All Christian history is there, Sikh history is there. They were, Guru Tegh Bahadur was said, "If you become Islam, I will spare you. Muslim, I will spare you. Otherwise, you will be beheaded." And he said, "I will not give my faith. Life is nothing. It is temporary faith. One day it will die. But faith is eternal. I will not give my faith." And he was beheaded. There is a small piece found. I gave my head, but I didn't give my faith. So this happened. So there is no fear at all in the devotee of God. So those who are persecuted, those who are reviled for Jesus' sake, for the sake of God, for the sake of spirituality, there is the high rewards in heaven. So Jesus said that heaven is here itself. Those persons who are beheaded in the name of God, even St. Paul was crucified. So, but in the name of the big church, St. Paul's Basilica, that's what the Vatican Church name. And you know what he did when he was being crucified? He said, "I have one request." He says, "I don't want to die like Christ. Christ was my master. He was so great. But as per rule, you have been convicted to be crucified. So if you want to crucify me upside down. I don't want to die like Christ. I'm not equal to Christ. I'm a servant." How great was every disciple of this great masters. They were lumped into mankind and they touched them and made everyone great. That's what Sri Ramakrishna did great to every disciple of his. That's what Jesus did to every disciple of his. Let me read at the end from Swami Vivekananda. He gave this from the top. He gave at the oak which Christian unity. Swami Vivekananda said, "All religions are at the bottom alike. This is so, although the Christian church, like the Pharisee in the parable, thanks God that it alone is right, and thinks that all other religions are wrong and in need of Christian light. Christianity must become tolerant before the world will be willing to unite with the Christian church in a common charity. God has not left himself without a witness in any heart, and men, especially men who follow Jesus Christ." When Swami Vivekananda said men, it is man and woman both. That time this was the expression. In fact, Jesus Christ was willing to admit every good man to the family of God. It is not the man who believes a certain something but the man who does the will of the Father in heaven, who is right. On this basis, being right and doing right, the whole world can unite. So Swamiji exhausts all people to unite in the name of God. Whether you call it God or Brahman or Shiva or Kali or Allah, we all are one, whole humanity is one, and we can love all, irrespective of what religion we belong. That is a very secondary thing. We all are human beings, we all are children of God. We all can be united in the name of God, whether you call him Jesus, whether you call him Allah or Shiva or Ramakrishna or Chaitanya. There are different lamps of spiritual illumination needed for us to guide to that spiritual blessedness, when we will be able to find kingdom within our own being. Thank you.